This is the Clear Money Talk podcast, offering up creative solutions for your retirement future through education, choice, transparency, and empathy. Now, your host, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, Tim Clairmont, and co-host, Tyler Andrews.
Hello,
Good morning.
listeners. Good morning. Welcome to Clear Money Talk. My name is Tim Clairmont, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners. As always, with me here today is Mr. Tyler Andrews. Tyler.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. I feel bad. You have to introduce yourself, but then you introduce me, so I just get to walk in and say, "Hey, it's good to see you." You know,
you do.
So maybe, maybe I'll introduce you at one of these
we can
points.
change it up.
And then you introduce me, or
Speaking of changing it up, that's what we're doing today
that's
anyway.
true.
So you just
the time has come.
teeing that up. The time has come. Today is the day where I get to surprise Tyler with questions and have Tyler share his wondrous knowledge with all of you. So I'm excited to get Tyler's answers to this particular session of Clear Money Talk. Today, as you are aware already, because you've already clicked this, are you ready for the question?
I'm ready for the topic, please.
Are you leaving money on the table with your Social Security strategy?
Ooh,
That is our topic.
that's a good
Are
one.
you
I feel like
leaving
that
money on the
is
table?
that is a little bit directed because I do have a designation
That's
for
right, that's
it's
right.
called the National Social Security Advisor designation to give additional details when it comes to Social Security to our clients and anybody that really seeks the information, because Social Security, as relevant as it is very unfortunately complicated. And as relevant as it is for many Americans, it shouldn't be as complicated. So I wanted to do additional learnings to figure out the program, the nuances, how to maximize benefits. If you're paying into it for so long, you deserve to maximize every dollar you can get from that program. And I'm excited to talk about this topic, Tim.
Good. You're welcome. I was trying to tee you up. You know, it's funny as you think about college or high school or anytime you're studying any kind of material, and then you have to take a test, and you get that final test, and then it's all over and it's behind you. Think of your driver's license test. Like, when's the last time you thought of all the test questions that you get in a driver's license test? Well, for Tyler, his test is never over. He is constantly taking this test. So
every day.
Today, he gets to take the test again with all of you and showcase all of his brilliant knowledge on this particular topic. So anything you want to share just based on the topic before I share with you a little bit of the outline of information that you can dive into?
I like the outline. I love structure. You know me. Structure's great. Tim can just fly off the cuff with whatever, so he doesn't need structure. I really appreciate structure when it comes to this type of stuff. However, initial thoughts. Give me the topic.
Are you leaving money? Welcome to my world, bro. Welcome to my world. Are you leaving money on the table with your Social Security strategy? That's the question.
I mean, the quick answer is most likely yes. A lot of people are probably leaving money on the table. I think there is so many things to be aware of when it comes to drawing Social Security and when to draw it, how to maximize benefits between spouses, how to maximize benefits if you're a widower or if you're divorced, or if you have certain health situations that might cause for either delaying or starting early. There's so many situations. It's very situational. When I was going through the program and learning all this additional information on Social Security, situational Social Security, SSS, is a topic and a phrase that came up quite often because it's always going to be very situational based. And it's never a one-stop shop answer. Yes, there's some general guidelines that most advisors will talk to about maximizing benefits, making sure you can get the most out of the program as possible, but it's going to be very situational, which is very practical for what we do in general. I mean, everything is very situational when we recommend investments or strategies or whatever it is when we meet with clients. It's always going to be very situational, and it's no different when it comes to Social Security. So those are my initial thoughts, but I'm curious what the structure you have looks like.
I love that SSS, situational Social Security.
It's like the SS, ship, or when it comes to sailing, you're on the SS Social Security.
Or the USSS Enterprise or whatever.
Exactly.
The Star Trek nerds out there. All right.
Nice.
So I'll give you a little bit of insights into the structure that, behind this question that we were looking at. But yeah, leaving money on the table with Social Security, none of our clients want to leave money on the table. And we've had many anecdotal stories of people who have left money on the table, and then we've found it for them and been able to try to get it to them so they can get higher income benefits out of their Social Security. But fundamentally, here are the basic bullets for you. Why Social Security isn't one size fits all. You can expound on that as you choose. Spousal, divorced, and survivor benefits, of course, one of the differences. How working in retirement impacts your benefits. The hidden tax on Social Security.
Yes.
And then coordinating Social Security with a holistic plan.
Yes.
They're
I
your
like that last one a lot too.
yeah. There's your 5 bullets. So
That's great.
You want to start back with bullet number 1?
Yeah, we can start on bullet number 1. I'm also very interested to hear your insights on a lot of this, Tim. I think you have so much working knowledge with all this stuff and real world scenarios dealing with thousands of people and clients over your time in the industry. So it's going to be fun to go back and forth and share our insights on this. And
be happy to expound on it, though I have no doubt you're going to just drop the mic on everything you have to say. So
well, this mic's on a stick, so I can't per se drop this thing. But let's go. Well,
all right. Why Social Security isn't one size fits all?
I think it's like a lot of things in what we do. There's no one size fits all. It's going to be unique to you. And as we were just mentioning a minute ago, situational Social Security. So there are many common beliefs when it comes to Social Security, but amongst people, the more I talk to people about it, a lot of people believe and they are steadfast that, you have to draw Social Security as soon as possible, which the earliest you can draw as a normal Social Security beneficiary is 62 years old. Normal retirement age, which is where you're not leaving any money on the table. That's your, quote unquote, normal retirement age is often thrown around the industry. It's going to depend on when you were born. If you were born pre-1960, it's usually 66 years old and X amount of months. If you're born after 1960, thankfully the Social Security Administration made it a lot easier for people to know it's at 67 years old at that point.
For
now, exactly. Then we can hit on that in a little bit. I think that's an easy flip of the switch for them to push that further to try to fix the program, if you will, as I think many people are not unaware, is that the program does have some deficits that they're running into and all that, which we could talk about that if you want to. I know it's on one of your bullet points, but
yeah, well, no, I think a lot of our listeners are probably, and viewers with the YouTube channel are probably aware when you get that green and white sheet that's got the 4 pages on it, and you read the first bottom half of the first page. It basically says, "Hey, we're going to be broke as far as Social Security is concerned in the early 2030s." And that scares a lot of people when they actually focus on that and read it. Of course, many people just flip it and go to the second and third pages where they get to see their income and benefits. That's right.
Exactly.
So
they breeze over that part.
Yeah.
There's some quick, interesting data on that. So when Social Security was first enacted, I think this was right around the Great Depression time. It's been around for a long time now as far as it's concerned. The number of people working versus the number of people drawing on the benefits, it was about 16 to 1. So there's about 16 people working, earning income, having a gainful wage or whichever way you look at it, for every one person drawing on the program and receiving benefits. Nowadays, it's about 3 to 1. So there's like roughly 3 people working for every one person drawing on it. So that a lot of that has to do with longevity, more people, living longer, more people drawing on the program than they ever expected, less people working. You can look at it from different angles. But because of that, that's why the Social Security Administration and, the surplus of funds that they've accumulated over all these years is running into issues, and that's why they have to quote that maybe the Social Security Administration might run out of money in the early 2030s. And how they're going to solve that, I think there's some lower hanging fruit that they could try to switch things and move the needle. One of them might be normal retirement age going from 67 to 68, 69, but that's a decision, a hard decision that somebody eventually will have to make, and we'll see what they do.
Yeah, lots of moving parts in Social Security, and it's it's as complicated as it is with the rules as if they're fixed. The rules aren't fixed because the rules are constantly moving. So we have to pay attention to the changes in the rules and then how that adjusts the best strategy for the clients, and which is why it is so easy to leave money on the table with your Social Security strategy unless you're really optimizing that strategy.
Yeah.
Well, with it not fitting. With no one size fits all, that makes sense. Situational Social Security, we touched on that.
Social Security.
You want to expound on spousal, divorced, and survivor benefits, or how working in retirement impacts the benefits?
Yeah, I think we should talk about the 3 ones that you just hit on first: the spousal, the survivor, and the divorce benefits. Let's talk about spousal. It's a little bit easier first, and then we can get into the divorced and widower benefits after that. But spousal benefits are there to take care of a spouse if anything happens to either of a spouse, and also to give a benefit still if there was a spouse that maybe didn't work and didn't have any earnings history. They were maybe a homemaker, took care of the kids, or they just couldn't work for health reasons or whatever it might have been, you have to have an earnings history of working in order to be eligible for having benefits. It doesn't take a lot of gainful work and many years of it to be eligible for a benefit, but you have to have, it's like 5 to 10 years of full-time work is usually the equivalent, somewhere in there. 40 credits is what the Social Security Administration qualifies as being eligible for a benefit. And then depending on how much you make, how long you work for, and all these other different factors will ultimately determine how much you're eligible to receive in retirement. But for spousal benefits, it's a way for spouses to either have a survivor benefit if one of the spouses passes away, and also to make sure that a spouse gets their own benefit even if they have no work history. So one of the most common rules of thumb is, let's say a spouse has no work history, they stayed home, or they maybe did a job that wasn't applicable for Social Security taxes, so they never paid into the program. There's a provision where if once the spouse that does have earnings history and is drawing from their Social Security benefit, the spouse that has no earnings history can then draw up to half of that spouse's benefit if they wait till normal retirement age. So let's say I worked, I'm 67 years old, that's my normal retirement age, my Social Security benefit is $2,000 a month. Let's say my spouse is the same age as me, they have no earnings history, and they wait till 67 as well, they can drop to half of my benefit, which would be $1,000 a month in their situation. So for the total household, they'd be able to take home $3,000 a month in that situation, even though the one spouse had no earnings history and no work history. Social Security Administration still honors that, their other spouse did work, and they want to make sure that they can each have something.
Yeah, think about, the gist of this question is of course, are you leaving any money on the table with your Social Security strategy? How many people are out there right now that believe that because they don't have that work history, therefore they don't think they can get any Social Security, and yet their spouse may be collecting, and they haven't filed to collect half of what their spouse is getting, even adjusted for their ages? That is leaving a lot of money potentially on the table.
Yes.
And then then the other element is even if they have filed under their own Social Security, and their own Social Security is less than half of their spouses, if they pivoted and did half their spouses, that could pick up some of that money that's on the table. So this is an excellent on point example of exactly what the question is for the day. So
yeah, and I think that's a great point actually to bring up. Social Security doesn't come knocking, so you don't hit 62, which is the earliest you can draw, or 67, which is normal retirement age, or age 70, which is the last opportunity where your benefits stop increasing at once you hit age 70. They don't come knocking to say, hey, Tyler, Tim, I see you haven't drawn your Social Security benefit. Do you want to get that started? They're not going to come and do that. They have, one, too much on their plate. And then two, if they don't have to pay out the benefits, they're not going to come knocking to make sure that you can collect your benefit. So you need to be proactive. You need to understand the rules and how these things work, and go knocking on their door and say, I'm ready to do this, and I've analyzed the program, I listened to the podcast on Clear Money Talk, I know I'm not leaving any money on the table, and I'm ready to start drawing my benefit. That's going to be in your court to do that. So just remember that. They don't come knocking, you got to go knocking on their door.
There you go.
Yep.
Cool. Divorced and survivor benefits.
Okay, so divorced survivor benefits, I'm going to be more vague, and I think there's some good reasons behind that. I think the best breadth of knowledge you can get when it comes to Social Security is from the Social Security Administration themselves. I always say you should verify the accuracy of information you receive on Social Security, whether you do your own research online. SSA.gov is a great website that the Social Security Administration has set up for the public. You can also generate your Social Security benefits there and look at situational Social Security situations that might be applicable to you. But anyways, always verify the stuff through them. When it comes to widow benefits and divorce benefits, there are so many needles that could be moved either direction. Like divorced, as an example, if you were married long enough, and if you potentially don't remarry, and there's other nuances involved with this, you could potentially draw your ex-spouse's Social Security benefit if you wait till certain ages, and assuming that theirs is higher than yours and other factors. And because of all those if, ands, or buts, it's always better to verify that your situation potentially qualifies it. What I would hate to do on this podcast is say, hey, you were married and now you're divorced, you get a Social Security benefit from your ex-spouse. That's not the way it always works. You have to usually be married long enough. You have to then usually be divorced long enough. If you get remarried, you usually have to wait long enough until you remarry. You still have to be old enough to be eligible for benefits. It's not like you can be 45 and get married for a couple of years and then divorce and think you can draw on their Social Security benefits now. There's all these different issues to be aware of, and I don't want to tell you that you're eligible for it and then have a negative surprise.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
Tyler, but my understanding, I think, and again, this could be a moving target because of all those changes to the rules with Social Security, but
Please.
my understanding is that it's 10 years of marriage is the minimum requirement in order to be eligible to receive to receive claim on spousal Social Security for the divorcee, and then you can't get remarried, I think, before the age of 60, and then
Correct.
after 60, if you get remarried, you could still collect on your previous ex-spousal Social Security. But I think one of the big things that a lot of listeners and viewers might be thinking about is if you didn't have a particularly pleasant divorce, if it was maybe acrimonious, whether or not you claim on your ex-spouse's Social Security has no bearing on what your ex-spouse receives themselves.
Correct.
So it's just an alternate calculation
Correct.
that determines your own benefits from Social Security. So when you claim on your ex-spouse's Social Security, you're not reducing their benefit, you're not hurting their benefit. Whether that's something you want to do or didn't want to do, either way, it's not going to happen. So it's all about just getting you the most money that we can get for you as far as your Social Security is concerned.
Correct. The ex-spouse does not have to know that you're claiming their quote-unquote their benefits, just an alternate calculation for it. And Tim is correct. Usually you have to be married longer than 10 years. If you get remarried, you have to do that after 60. You can do it earlier, but then you won't be able to claim on the ex-spouse. And then also usually if you're not normal retirement age, which is 67 for most people, it can be a little bit earlier depending if you're born pre-1960, the ex-spouse also usually has to be drawing their benefit before you can draw your benefit against theirs. But I think once you hit normal retirement age, again, verify the accuracy of all this information we share, once you're normal retirement age and they are, you can draw at any point. They don't have to be drawing their benefit either. So
But another great example of leaving money on the table.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Little nuances.
Well, what about how about working in retirement? How does that impact benefits?
Working in retirement can definitely impact benefits. The biggest, and a lot of people are aware of this provision where if you are drawing benefits pre-normal retirement age, let's just use 67 for ease of simplicity for the podcast purposes, which is normal retirement age. If you're still working pre-normal retirement age and you're drawing your Social Security benefit, let's say you draw your Social Security benefit at 65, you're still working, still enjoying work, your benefits can potentially be reduced $1 for every $2 you earn over the annual threshold. So the Social Security Administration basically says, we're going to put a limit on how much you can be earning from continuing to work and also drawing your Social Security benefits. There's a monthly calculation and also an annual calculation. So let's say you work half the year or part-time. There's a monthly limit and also an annual limit that you can reach, and your benefits could potentially be reduced. One of the most common things that get overlooked with that is even though the Social Security benefit could be reduced, that you get that back eventually when you hit normal retirement age. So they'll recalculate your benefit when you hit normal retirement age for all the benefits that might have been withheld because you were still working, and then you get that back on your Social Security monthly benefit as it gets recalculated at normal retirement age moving forward after that. I was actually talking to a client about this recently too. The year you reach normal retirement age, or 67, or the year you retire, there's also special provisions in there. You can earn a little bit more in those years and not have any benefits reduced. So that's one thing to be aware of. Tim, what are your insights on this? I know that this is often a topic you talk about with clients too.
Yeah.
There's a few other things I think is worth mentioning, but I want to hear what your thoughts are as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that threshold issue, it's a good thing you mentioned that recalculation. You know, the pro rata adjustment of your Social Security benefits, if you do have to pay any of that back for having taken early Social Security and then earning income above the threshold so that you end up having to pay some of that back. It's as if you hadn't taken it in the first place. In other words, that 8% increase that's occurring each year that you choose to delay, I think 8% is worth noting. Every year, basically, if you pretend that your full Social Security benefit at normal retirement age at 67 in this example is $2,000 a month, just like we were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So that's $24,000 a year, a significant part of a lot of people's retirement income benefits. And when you're looking at $2,000 a month in this hypothetical example, if you'd taken it 1 year prior, so at 66, then it would be 8% less than that $2,000. So that would end up being about $160 a month less. You'd end up with a benefit of about $1,840 a month. It continues to be 8% reduction of whatever your normal retirement age benefit is, all the way down to 62 years old. So you could take that same $160 a month off for a period of 5 years, and you're looking about $800 off the $2,000. You should end up with about $1,200 a month at 62. Mm-hmm. So by waiting from 62 to 63 in this example, you're actually increasing your benefit by 8% of your normal retirement age benefit, not 8% of the $1,200, which is more. So it's a significant increase. And then later on, when you continue to wait past 67, you're increasing your benefit by 8% each year from that normal retirement age benefit up to age 70. So I think the one thing I would focus on is, as far as leaving money on the table, just making sure you're getting the right amount of income for you. Many of our clients are focused on two different things when it comes to Social Security. One is how necessary is Social Security to support their cash flow at this time when they retire. That is a huge decision maker in terms of determining when to take Social Security. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is, okay, how do we get the most? And that's another huge decision maker, and they don't always align. So if you have enough wealth and enough other income sources where that first question isn't a big issue for you, in other words, you have enough cash flow that you can afford to really claim Social Security whenever you want to, it gives you the luxury of focusing on the second question and then just trying to answer the question of how do I get the most for me and for my family out of Social Security. Yeah. And the key to that is to have enough wealth built up to address that first question without having to be reliant on Social Security. And of course, that's what we do, is help people with retirement income planning. So
that's right.
Let's touch on the last couple, the hidden tax on Social Security and then coordinating Social Security with a holistic plan, and we'll bring it home.
I think that sounds great. So the hidden tax?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hidden tax. Dive into how up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxable based on your combined income.
Yeah. It doesn't take a lot of combined income in a household to reach the 85% taxation of the benefits. It doesn't mean that your benefits are going to be taxed at an 85% rate. It just means 85% of the benefit could be taxed. So let's say you have you have a benefit of $1,000 a month. That means $850 of that $1,000 per month could be taxable, whatever your brackets are. If you live in it's only taxable at a federal level. It's not even taxable at a state level. So that's a nice benefit. So it's just taxable based on your federal tax brackets. The states don't get to dip in and take a portion of it, which is a nice benefit for people who maybe live in high income tax states like we are in Oregon or California or otherwise. But that's often an overlooked thing. And it wasn't always that way either, is my understanding. I think it was, I'm going to quote the wrong president, and then that president's going to listen to this podcast and be upset if they're still alive. So
I hope that president's listening to this podcast.
Too. It was one of the presidents. I believe he's still around.
I like that answer. It's one of the presidents.
One of them. Social Security benefits, they haven't always been taxable. It was another way to beef up the program and to bring more tax dollars back to Social Security Administration. As we were talking about earlier, there's clearly a deficit with how much is being paid out, which is versus how much is coming in. That could be another area where they go to try to save the program, is maybe they say instead of 85% of your benefits being potentially eligible to be taxed, we're going to tax 100% of it. Or we're going to increase the ratios quicker. So depending on where your income is at, you can have up to 50% of your benefits being taxable. It jumps up to 85 pretty quickly as the more taxable income that your household has in retirement. But they might just say, we're going to tax 100% for everybody or something. That could be one of the lower hanging fruits for them to bring more money into the program to try to save it. We'll see what happens with that, as we talked about. But there's.
I'm sure that president who made Social Security taxable would just love to call in and tell everybody that that's him and raise his hand. So
please call us. That'd be cool.
That's a great.
Or
thing
if you're not around any longer,
yes, I raise taxes for all of you.
Exactly.
Generally, so I think they'll probably be on the down low. No, that's good. That's really helpful and insightful. And then what about holistic planning? And then of course, I'll let you finish on why the NSSA matters as far as the designation is concerned.
Oh, sure. That sounds good. I mean, holistic financial planning is everything we do. If you're working with an advisor, or if you think advisors just do one or two things, it's not the case. Holistic financial planner should be taking into account all different aspects of your financial well-being, which might not just be your money. It's also going to look into other things: taxes, insurance, estate planning, rate of return, retirement income planning. All these things work together conjunctively to build a holistic plan for you that works. And Social Security is a huge integral part of that. It might fall more into that retirement income planning, rate of return calculation part of it. But also it could look into the estate planning. It could fall in there as well to make sure that as far as your estate planning wishes to take care of your spouse or your kids or grandkids, Social Security falls into certain situations for those as well. And if your advisor isn't talking to you about Social Security, or if you ask them questions about Social Security and they don't want to talk about it, or they don't have the knowledge about it, I think you should find somebody that does want to talk to you about it. I'm not saying leave them, but find somebody that can talk to you about it, because it is a program that with so many different moving balls all the time, it's like the game with the marbles, and you drop them and they have to hit the different things and they all end up at different places at the bottom of it. It's kind of like that, and things
Labyrinth, maybe?
maybe.
Don't know that game. That's like, anyway,
Yeah,
got it.
Exactly.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts, and especially from a holistic financial planning perspective, we talked about it earlier. Situational Social Security is so important, and to be on the podcast and say this is what everybody should do with Social Security. You should all do this and not do this, or definitely do this but not these things. Like that would just be wrong because, as we see every day as we talk to people, it is so unique and different to each person you come across. Yep. And making sure that you get the most out of the program is important. Again, you were paying potentially 6.2% of all your wages in your working years to the program, and that's a lot of money added up over time, and you deserve to get the most out of it that you can.
Yeah, and that's as an employee. And if you're self-employed, you were
That's
paying
true.
15.3% of all of your income as a self-employment tax, which is the employee and employer side. And by the way, even if you're an employee at 6.2, your employer was paying 6.2% as well, matching you dollar for dollar on all those Social Security taxes too. So
Yeah.
a lot of money has gone into that administration and in terms of covering those Social Security benefits and just making sure that you get adequate reimbursement for all of the money you've spent over your lifetime is one of the things that we want to make sure you experience too. Don't leave money on the table.
Don't leave money on the table with anything, especially Social Security.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. Well, anything
else
else
you
you
got?
want to say on Social Security as far as anything about the NSA designation, or do you want to move on to trivia? Which
I think the NSA has been fun
Okay.
to get. It's been very valuable. I think if we have anybody listening, any clients, any other new listeners that are just kind of tuning into the podcast, which we appreciate you being here. First off, hope you guys are taking something good away from this. Feel free to reach out to Tim and I. We both, would love to talk about this or anything else when it comes to money. That's what we're here for. But yeah, the NSA designation has definitely been helpful in making sure that we can help clients and anybody else make sure they don't leave money on the table.
That's good.
When it comes to Social Security.
Yeah, just to be clear, that's the NSSA, the National Social Security Advisor,
Yes, was
not
I
the NSA,
abbreviating it?
which is skipped
No,
an S, which NSA would be the
not the
National
NSA.
Security, the National Security Administration.
not part of the
not
NSA.
not the same thing, but
Quite different.
good confirmation. So excellent. I'm so proud of Tyler with the knowledge that he's obtained over the last 8.5, 9 years, and the NSSA designation is just one of the many things that Tyler's learned over all of these years as well, and working together here at Clear Financial Partners.
Yeah.
We do need to do the Just the Answer though. So
It's going to be a little bit loaded.
yeah, we gotta bring that home.
All right.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right.
Unless you want to do it.
No. Let's. It's your show today. Your show today.
All
So
right, let's do it.
do you want any?
Hit us with the topic again.
All right. So the topic again is: are you leaving money on the table with your Social Security strategy?
Okay.
And that was
the-
one size fits all. Spousal divorce survivor. How working retirement impacts benefits.
Okay.
Go for it.
Here's just the answer. As Tim and I always talk about, you should definitely listen to the full podcast. There's so much good stuff. Tim and I go back and forth. We joke. It's fun. You want to listen to the full podcast. But I digress. If you just want the meat and potatoes, here you go. Social Security is a complicated program. As relevant, as common as it is for most Americans, it's complicated. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. And to make sure that you get the most out of the program that you can, because you deserve to, you paid a lot of money into it during your working years, you need to make sure that you understand your situation and you tie into what we call situational Social Security. So that's taking your unique situation into account. You're not just listening to your neighbor up the street or your coworker telling you to draw Social Security at this age or to do this, because your situation could be drastically different from theirs. So you need to truly understand the program. To understand the program, you need to understand the situation that you're in. There's different situations for spouses, for people that are divorced, for people that are widowed, for people of different ages, all these different situations that will dictate what makes the most sense for you to make sure you're not leaving any money on the table. So Tim and I talked about spousal benefits, widow benefits, divorce benefits. We talked about what it means to be working in retirement, how that could impact your benefits, not only during that time, but also down the road as you're potentially not working any longer. We talked about the taxation of Social Security benefits, and often that's a hidden cost of Social Security. Many people don't realize your benefits are taxable. The federal government will dip their hand and tax whatever they can, and Social Security is not off the table when it comes to that stuff. So be aware that in retirement, those benefits could be potentially taxable to you depending on your income and some other factors. Tim and I talked about holistic financial planning when it comes to Social Security. I think that's the perfect deviation back to situational Social Security. It's not a one size fits all. It's going to be unique to you. Make sure that your advisor, if you're working with one or if you're doing it yourself, you're tying into all aspects of what you're doing in your financial planning for retirement income planning, rate of return, insurance planning, estate planning, and tax planning. All those things should also work cohesively with your Social Security benefits to make sure you're not leaving anything on the table. And if all of that is like right over your head, you can flip the easy switch and call somebody like us or anybody you trust on this stuff. Make sure you trust them and that they truly understand the program because, again, there are so many nuances when it comes to Social Security, and to make sure you're truly maximizing your benefits and not stepping in a pothole that you could see coming, you should understand it yourself, but also work with somebody that understands it.
And how do they get a hold of us?
That's a great question. Check out our website. Just revamped our websites, www.clearfp.com. You can also call us, 503-579-1000. We'd love to get to know you. If you're an existing client, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're just been listening to the podcast, enjoying them, and you maybe want to hear Tim and I talk about something different, or if you have any insights, feedback, or if you're a sponsor and you want to sponsor the podcast, you can also reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep. I drink Starbucks Nitros and Snapples, Diet Snapples all the time. So either Starbucks or Snapple would be welcome to give us a call.
That'd be cool.
Or any other sponsor that wants to sponsor
That's
us.
true.
We'd still have that conversation. All right, let's move on to trivia and wrap it up and bring it home today. So I get to ask you a trivia question. That's the benefits. So this is going to be fun.
Don't hurt me, man. Don't hurt me.
Okay. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen sparrow?
Oh, jeez.
I am kidding. Okay.
Well, we talk about that enough where I'm like, you might quote that actually. But do they give the answer?
No, the correct answer is, what do you mean, African or European sparrow? But anyway.
Nice.
Let's move on. So
All
the question for today, in what year was Social Security signed into law in the United States?
Okay.
And I can give you multiple choice, but if you already know the answer because you're so brilliant, that's fine too.
I mean,
you want some
when it comes to multiple choice answers, there's always that's definitely out, that's definitely out. I know it's somewhere between 1910 and 1940. So hit me with some multiple choice.
All right. In what year was Social Security signed into law in the United States? Option A, 1929. Option B, 1935. Option C, 1942. Option D, 1954.
Oh, man. You didn't give me any obvious.
Nope.
I mean, there's one that quickly comes to mind, and like you've said, and like many people agree, that usually the first one that comes to mind is a lot of the times the correct one. Could be wrong in this case, but I'm going to go with, I think it was B, 1935.
Well done.
Nice.
Little streamers and
Awesome.
confetti and all that. Wow, yeah, well done. 1935. President
Nice.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act into law during the Great Depression as part of the New Deal. So
Nice.
well done.
Thank
Nailed
you,
it.
Roosevelt.
Nailed it.
Good work,
All right.
Roosevelt. Yeah.
1 for 1. Good job.
I'm 100%. Batting 1,000 over here. That's
All right.
nice.
I think that's going to bring us home for today's episode of Clear Money Talk. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you continue to keep learning something smart about money everywhere you can.
Absolutely.
Tim Clairmont and Tyler Andrews are investment advisor representatives offering securities and advisory services through Ceteri Advisor Networks LLC, a broker, dealer, and registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Ceteri is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this material are for information purposes only and are not necessarily those of Ceteri Advisor Networks LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a tax or legal advisor. Neither Ceteri Advisor Networks LLC nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. Examples referenced are hypothetical only and do not represent the actual performance of any particular investments. Converting from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. A Roth IRA offers tax-free withdrawals on taxable contributions. To qualify for the tax-free and penalty-free withdrawal or earnings, a Roth IRA must be in place for at least 5 tax years, and the distribution must take place after age 59.5 or due to death, disability, or a first-time home purchase up to a $10,000 lifetime maximum. Depending on state law, Roth IRA distributions may be subject to state taxes. Distributions from traditional IRAs and employer-sponsored retirement plans are taxed as ordinary income and, if taken prior to reaching age 59.5, may be subject to an additional 10% IRS tax penalty. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks and charges, and expenses of mutual funds and ETFs carefully before investing. The prospectus, which contains this and other information about the funds and ETFs, can be obtained directly from the company or from your financial professional. The prospectus should be read carefully before investing or sending money. A diversified portfolio does does not assure a profit or protect against loss in a declining market. Dollar cost averaging will not guarantee a profit or protect you from loss, but may reduce your average cost per share in a fluctuating market. Investors cannot invest directly in indexes. The performance of any index is not indicative of the performance of any investment and does not take into account the effects of inflation and the fees and expenses associated with investing. Although it is possible to have guaranteed income for life with a fixed annuity, there is no assurance that this income will keep up with inflation. There is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years or during the rate guarantee period. There is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years that you own the contract. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS tax penalty in addition to any ordinary income tax. The guarantee of the annuity is backed by the financial strength of the underlying insurance company. Investment sub-account values will fluctuate with changes in market conditions. An investment in a variable annuity involves investment risk, including possible loss of principal. Variable annuities are designed for long-term investing. The contract, when redeemed, may be worth more or less than the total amount invested. Variable annuities are subject to insurance-related charges, including mortality and expense charges, administrative fees, and the expenses associated with the underlying sub-accounts. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks, and charges and expenses of the variable annuity carefully before investing. The prospectus contains this and other information about the variable annuity. Contact Clear Financial Partners at info@clearfp.com or 503-579-1000 to obtain a prospectus, which should be read carefully before investing or sending money. The cost and availability of life insurance depend on factors such as age, health, and the type and amount of insurance purchased. Before implementing a strategy involving life insurance, it would be prudent to make sure that you are insurable by having the policy approved. As with most financial decisions, there are expenses associated with the purchase of life insurance. Policies commonly have mortality and expense charges. In addition, if a policy is surrendered prematurely, there may be surrender charges and income tax implications. Clear Financial Partners is located at 15573 Bangi Road, Suite 100, Lake Oswego, Oregon 97035. For more information, please call us at 503-579-1000.